In the heart of Paulding County, Georgia, lies the city of Dallas, a small town steeped in rich history. If you've ever meandered down Main Street at the heart of its historic downtown, you undoubtedly noticed the presence of an old-style theater, the Dallas Theater, an iconic landmark brimming with nearly a century's worth of stories. Today, we embark on a journey to connect with individuals who have experienced the theater's bygone glory, including the former owners. Together, we'll reminisce about the memories that made this place so cherished by the people of Paulding County. Join us as we delve into the captivating history of the Dallas Theater, uncovering its yesteryears and its present-day incarnation. As we explore the stories of those who have been a part of this theater's journey, we uncover not just the history of a building, but the memories of a town and the spirit that binds its people together. Join us as we step into the heart of Paulding County, rediscovering the magic of the Dallas Theater. The story of the theater starts with a man named Wendell Welch, a resident of Dallas who opened a theater called The Strand in the 1920s, where the now Dallas Theater resides.
My granddaddy, Wendell Welch, was, of course, the one that built the theater, and that was his business, lifelong business. His family started each of their boys in a business, and he chose the theater business. And he was a young man in his early 20s, but he went into a business venture in Dallas that nobody else had.
That Strand Theater opened July the 3rd, 1926. Town was full of people. Everybody had come to town for the 4th of July singing, and all that music was coming out of the top of the courthouse, and all that noise was coming out of the theater in downtown Dallas, and Dallas was really alive that day. The ones that weren't singing were sitting in the picture show clapping their hands.
Mr. Wendell Welch owned and operated the Strand for 20 years before disaster struck in March of 1948. A fire suddenly broke out inside the theater and did massive damage to the interior and also affected some of the surrounding businesses.
It burned in 1948, which was tragic, because you got something that draws that many people to Dallas and it's gone.
We had just moved here from Atlanta when I was seven years old, and the Strand was the theater back in that day. Shortly after we moved here, the Strand burned. And of course, the Welches, being entrepreneurs, they opened what was an open-air theater out where, just past the parking lot between here and the First Baptist Church on the left.
Yeah, I remember the fire. We was afraid the whole town was gonna burn down. Mr. Welch, he didn't want us to be without a theater, so we had an outdoor theater down the street here where we just sat on wooden boards, anything you could sit on, and watch the screen.
One night, the show burned, and he had already bought the Conley Hotel down the street with the hopes that he could later build a nice big theater there, stay in business. He just built benches down there at what used to be the old Conley Hotel in the back of it.
Welch rebuilt the facility to its larger current size, and 7 months after the fire, the Dallas Theater was born.
He had it reconstructed within a year, and he went from the smaller theater to the larger one, the footprint that we have today.
After it was rebuilt, my granddaddy was an entrepreneur, but as much as that, he was a promoter. He knew how to promote things to get people interested, do special promotions and stuff. And when he built a new theater, he wanted something state of the art, you know, and built it, you know, in '48 and used Art Deco styling from the late '30s, early '40s, and you know, you can imagine how fabulous it was then, you know, and at that time, you know, keep in mind, there weren't TVs. You know, people didn't have any entertainment other than maybe a live show or something, you know, whatever that would have been. But you come to the theater and you see a big screen picture, and you've never even seen a TV. I can imagine what that was like for somebody that had never been. Dallas was a community, but the theater was a big, big part of it. Everybody on Saturday would come to the theater, you know, that's what, so much of the county then, you know, was rural, and but, you know, people would come on the weekends to shop, you know, go to the dry goods store or grocery stores or whatever they would do, but most of them tried to include the theater in that trip.
We would do our chores on Saturday morning and would all congregate in front of the theater and buy tickets, and lots of Saturdays we stayed from the time it opened until they sent you out. If you were gonna stay for the midnight show, you had to go out and buy another ticket.
Dad worked across the street in the hardware store, and I would come to town with him on Saturday and eat ice cream and go to the movie and go home with him when he got off work about 6 o'clock.
I would say elementary age children and middle school age, this is how we kept up with our friends. We would all come to the movies on Saturday afternoon.
My brother and me would get up in the morning, on Saturday morning, and we would, Daddy would give us some money, not very much, but just enough. And we came up here and we would go get a haircut first over at Breezy Davis's barbershop down a bit here. And so after that, we'd come here and go to the movies.
We would come every Saturday and walk up here, and my mother gave us both 50 cents a piece. A quarter was to get in, and the other quarter was for a hot dog, chips or candy or a drink, whichever one we wanted.
I remember even in my lifetime when they would have promotions, they'd play a Tarzan film, and they'd go out and haul cane, you know, and put cane up around like a Tarzan jungle, you know, work a whole week making the Marquee, lining it with that cane for the Tarzan, and Lord, you'd fill the place up when you had a Tarzan movie.
If they had a Tarzan movie, they would put bamboo and you know, all kinds of, you know, stuff to make it look kind of like a jungle to advertise.
The scary movies, which were actually terrifying to me, but we loved them, The Blob, Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Mummy, Frankenstein.
The Tingler with Vincent Price was shown up here. I had never been to a scary movie before, and I barely made it through that movie. I was so terrified, and I've never seen another scary movie since.
And I love the color cartoons, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and all of that, but the Three Stooges was my favorites. A very popular feature was, we called it the Midnight Show. On Saturday night, it actually wasn't at midnight, it was over before midnight, really, but it was the Late Late Show. Mother and Dad would let me stay in town to go to the midnight show. Didn't know how we was gonna get home, walked most of the time. Of course, there'd be a road full of us kids, and we'd walk from here to New Hope back home.
I just remember that it was a safe place to come.
Safe, convenient. The parents would just drop us off, you know. And of course, the Welch family, everybody knew.
We knew everybody in town, and it was very, very safe back in that day. We did a thriving popcorn business because people would hear it and they'd come running up to the concession stand, mainly to buy popcorn. You could get a bag of popcorn for a nickel and a box of popcorn for a dime.
The very best popcorn in the whole wide world.
I've never had any as good since.
During, I think it was around probably 1960 or so, there was a children's show that was shown on WSB Channel 2 here in the Atlanta area. And the name of that show was the Officer Don Show. And he was he was dressed up as a police officer and portrayed himself to the children on that show as being a police officer. And he promoted, good behavior and being kind to people and obeying laws and, good stuff like that. The show became so popular that they started going out to individual, places outside of the studio there in Atlanta. And the Officer Don Show came to this theater. I was in the 6th grade. And, it was a big deal. I mean, the theater was packed full of kids. We couldn't wait to have Officer Don here in person. And so they did several games, and they would ask different, children to come up and participate in the games on stage. And I happened to be one of those for one of the games. But I can't tell you at all what game it was. I remember I was just so impressed with myself that I got to go up on the stage.
There was no air conditioning system, but they had a fan that blew at the front of the auditorium, and they would go buy ice at the ice house and put it in a tray in front of that fan, and that would blow cool air. And they'd leave the front door open, and people would feel the cool air in the heat of the summer, and they'd take and spend their money, go in and sit down and watch a movie in the cool theater.
When they built this theater, it was, if I'm not badly mistaken, it was the only air-conditioned building in Dallas. And it was air-conditioned from the day that they actually built this theater.
Judy, Wendell's daughter, married Dean Hardy in 1954, and together took charge of the theater after Wendell. The duo of Dean and Judy not only ran the existing theater, but also launched the Judine Drive-In, a beloved hotspot in Paulding County.
When we married in 1954, it was understood that I worked at Sears Roebuck, and it was understood that I was going to manage the theater after we were married. We had shows 7 nights a week, and even on Saturday night and on Sunday afternoon. We opened the drive-in theater May the 16th of 1956. Judy's daddy, Wendell, he bought 40 acres of land out there where the theater is now, where Hardy Chevrolet is. And we developed 10 acres at first, and people in Dallas found out what we was doing out there, and they said, "You're crazy." So go out 3 miles, 4 miles out of town to build a theater, and there won't nobody go. But we proved them wrong 100%. We ran a contest to let the people name it. We didn't want it to be like a Moonlight or a Starlight or something like most of the drive-ins are named, And we run a contest in the park in Parker's Dallas New Era, and let people name right in the name and thing, and we ended up with a lady, a prominent lady in the county, Lois Ragsdale, came up with the name of Judine, J-U-D-E-A-N. J-U is for Judy and D-E-A-N is for Dean, Judine. That's where the name came from.
We were at the grand opening at the Judine Drive-In when it opened, and as a matter of fact, I wish I could remember the title of the movie. I do remember it was about the Navy.
That was the thing to do, was to go to eat at Vaughn's. You get a hamburger steak and some salad and a baked potato for $1.25. Then you'd go over and you'd take your girl out to the Judine, and you'd put the speaker in the side of the car, and then you would watch the show.
We built a house behind the drive-in, and that's where Judy and I lived, was in that house. We'd sit out on the front there and sit out in lawn chairs on the front porch of the house. And we could see the highway, 120 highway, and the boys would come up through there and would stop and let one or two of them out and put them in the trunk. And they'd come around and get paid, and I'd walk down to the where they were parked. And it's hot in the summertime, you know, I mean, it's hot as the devil. And I walked up, I'd talk to the ones in the car, you know, and they talked for a while. And I said, I believe I hear some kind of noise. What is that? They said, oh, it ain't nothing. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. So we talked on another few minutes, and the truck was burning up, so they had hit on the thing and opened it up, and there was two fellows was in there. The boys, some boys from Hiram was one that we got caught, and a lot more slipped in after that, you know. We didn't frown on it too much slipping in because they didn't have a dollar to spend, and if you charged them 50 cents to get in, they wouldn't have but 50 cents to spend at the concession stand. If you didn't do that, well, then they had to spend $1 at the concession stand. So we was a winner any way you look at it, you know. And there's one boy from Hiram, I can't think of his name now, but he saw me at the Rotary Golf Tournament a couple of 3 years ago and walked up and handed me $1. And I said, what is this for? He said, I slipped in the theater one night and I want to pay you for it now.
The Judy Drive-In not only showed movies, but also hosted a beauty contest for several years.
On beauty contest night, we built Grover Baggett worked for us in the carpenter business, and he built a platform in front of the concession stand, and that put steps in it, and that's where the girls would go up those steps and go walk down the platform, and it was the biggest success that you could possibly think about in a little county like Paulding was. But her dad made pictures, and he'd make pictures of these girls, and Judy would take the pictures after he developed them and trim them down to where their waist was looked good, and we put a poster up around everywhere, and I guess you could say that people came from near and far to the beauty contest because all the speakers were taken, and people standing around and parked up and down the highway on 120 highway and on the Macklin Road too.
As the drive-in started ramping up, theaters started phasing down. You know, and I think mostly because people had TVs in their home then, so, you know, it wasn't quite the same going to a movie theater.
As home television became more popular, the Dallas Theater saw a significant decrease in attendance, and in 1963, the once thriving attraction closed its doors.
Just wasn't having any attendance, you know, at all. The television has played a big part in that, you know, in cutting it back.
It's kind of sad to see it close.
We just read the announcement that it was going to be closing and it was going to be office space.
When we closed the theater, I remodeled it into offices, and we built 3 offices in there. And if somebody came that us needed an office, we just would add on to it.
For 40 years after closing, the Dallas Theater building served as multi-office spaces for local businesses, and in 1997, the the city of Dallas and then Mayor Boyd Austin took an interest in the location.
My cousin, Lisa Freeman Beatty of the magistrate's office, came in my insurance office on the square one day and said, "Have y'all ever thought about doing anything with a theater?" And I was like, "What theater?" What I had always known as the Paulding building, an office building, had been created from parts of the building and by raising the old slanted floor in the building. So that's how the discussions began on what we might possibly do with that building. And I began talking with Dean and Judy at the time. Her cousin and neighbor owned the store next door, Welch's, J.F. Welch and Son, and was an estate antiques at the time, had wanted to buy the property and just cut a hole through his wall into that building. And I appealed to her love of Dallas and her memory of her daddy and all the good times there. I said, "Judy, please don't do that. Let us have an opportunity." And so that's how we came about acquiring the building.
1997, we sold it to the city, and they completely renovated the theater. And it's one of the nicest theaters it is in this part of the country right now.
Once we got it, we also found the treasure trove of all the original blueprints that her daddy had from the 1947 reconstruction.
He brought the architect down here, and Judy said, I'll do better than just tell you a few things about it. Said, "I've got to pull plans in the closet. I'll get them and let you have them to use."
Judy had all of the original plans, all of the details on the sconces, on the trim work, on the curtains, almost everything in there we were able to replicate, if not exactly close to it. And of course, like with modern seating and things, we had to make some accommodations. Then that became the centerpiece for all of the streetscape, the renovation of the downtown square. All of that was generated from the purchase and the restoration of the theater.
The city's vision for the old theater was not just about preserving a historic structure, but also revitalizing a cultural gem. The Dallas Theater underwent renovations, restoring its original charm while incorporating modern amenities.
We started out with a theater manager. We gave them instructions on that we wanted it to be a public facility, that we really wanted to stress the arts, and it could be combined with a civic center where they could teach drama classes, dance, painting, music, anything they wanted to do, and could use that for rehearsal or classroom space, and then the performance space in the theater itself. We were so fortunate to have Dallas people, good, caring people like Dean and Judy Hardy, that were willing to partner with us to save the building and to create a new theater, really, in its place.
Looking at it now, I mean, it just brings me back to my childhood. I mean, that was happy times. I mean, life was simple. Just the fact that we could walk up here, and be safe, and that meant a lot.
Today, the Dallas Theater stands as a testament to the resilience of a community and the preservation of its history. It hosts a variety of events, from live performances to movie nights, breathing new life into a space that once stood silent.
The current theater manager, Emily Shipp, is great. They have a regular season of shows that come to Dallas, and they publish that calendar every year.
I manage and oversee everything that we do here at the theater. We do three main things. We present, we produce, and we rent. We present a full touring season of local and semi-local artists and professional touring groups, from concerts to stage performances to comedians, everything like that. We do our own produced season. We do our own in-house produced shows, as well as run a full education department with classes, camps, and such for kids and coming soon adults. And we also rent to our local community for everything from dance recitals to church events to tons of weddings. Anything and everything you can think of, we rent to our local community.
As we conclude our journey through the captivating history of the Dallas Theater, we've uncovered a tapestry woven with the threads of time, resilience, and community spirit. From its humble beginnings under Wendell Welch to the transformative era of Dean and Judy Hardy, the theater's story mirrors the rise, fall, and triumphant resurgence of a cherished cultural hub. Through fires, changing entertainment landscapes, and years of silence, the Dallas Theater stood resilient, echoing the memories of a bygone era. Today, thanks to the vision of the City of Dallas and Mayor Boyd Austin, this historic landmark not only survives, but thrives, breathing new life into the heart of Paulding County.
The city eventually named the theater, the auditorium portion, the Wendell Welch Auditorium, and the balcony is the Dean and Judy Hardy balcony because of the things they did to make it possible for us to have the theater.
As the Dallas Theater continues to host a myriad of events, it serves as a living testament to the power of preservation and the enduring legacy of a community that refuses to let its history fade away. Join us in celebrating the magic of the Dallas Theater, where the past and present dance in harmony, ensuring that the spirit of this iconic landmark lives on for generations to come.